All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is JB Wells, and I'm the head football coach at the Kingswood Oxford School. We're an independent school in West Hartford, Connecticut. Pretty good football program that I inherited when I came here last year, and we're all kind of hoping that we're going to get things going for the fall. And this is kind of one of the things that we'll certainly hang our hat on. But over the years, the counter has been a good play for us. For me, at just about every stop I've been at. And, I think it's something that you have to have in your offense, that we all carry in our offense. So this is kind of a talk about the counter as a conceptual play and some of the things that have been good over the years. This is my 29th. This will be my 29th season coaching. I graduated from Trinity College in 1991 and immediately got in and coached college football until this past season. And you can see I've been at a lot of very, very good schools and a lot of schools that have really, really high academic standards. And I've been a head coach for now since about 2001, 2002. So I've been kind of able to do some of the things that I want to do because the head coach gets to call the shots. But we're going to talk pretty much about these things today. Counter is a concept in some of the things that I believe about counter and what I like and what I don't like about it. Talk about the splits and levels, how we use that, some of the techniques that we use to run the base play, and then just some assignments and adjustments that we have. And there's film sprinkled in throughout to kind of illustrate the points. So hopefully that'll all work today. So counter is a concept. When I got into coaching, counter tray was a big play. And everybody was pulling the guard and the tackle, and the guard would kick and the tackle would wrap, and it was a good play. But over the years, we had kind of gotten away from the tackle pulling and kind of inserted another person to pull, someone with maybe a little bit more athleticism to find their way through the hole, like a fullback or a tight end type player, where the guard was kicking and that player was pulling. And we got away from counter tray. I think we've seen counter tray make a resurgence with a lot of the spread offenses. But what I'm going to talk to you today about is not really counter tray. It's more of a one puller counter concept. So it's a little bit more like a slow ISO than counter tray. And hopefully that'll make sense as we kind of move through this thing. It's a gap block misdirection play with advantages that I believe are advantages over traditional counter tray. Linebackers don't get as quick a key read from the linebacker spot because there isn't a guard pulling. Teams tend to key guards more than they key tackles. You can stay on the double team longer because of that, and I think that's important to make sure that the first level defender is blocked. You don't have to win the war of wills on the guard's kick out block. We've all had those things where either on power or counter where we're trying to get someone to kick out the defensive end, and it is a war of wills. It's hard to get a clean kick out and do that. So this kind of eliminates that to some extent or helps you with it. It will protect a weaker center that may struggle with one-on-one blocks. We did a study back in the mid-90s, and we studied a bunch of counter plays. And what me and our other assistant at the University of Chicago discovered is that the single block in the whole thing, the center blocking back to free the pulling guard, was where there was a lot of tackles for losses were made by a good nose guard. That if the center can't handle the nose because of the nature of the play being slower hitting, he had more of an opportunity to get off a block and make a play. And so we can protect our center, that he's always going to be working with somebody and he doesn't have to operate one-on-one. And then backside penetration issues were reduced significantly just because the guard was blocking on and we could shut down a B-gap defender a lot easier than if the guard was pulling. There's a tremendous versatility for backfield action. The ball carrier, who's pulling, you can really dress this up and kind of keep things fresh without having to teach a whole bunch of new stuff to the line. In terms of splits and levels, when we talk about splits, just across the front, we talk 18 inches to 2 feet to kind of start, but then we will really talk to the play side tackle, and in some cases the play side guard, as you'll see, to expand the hole. So to kind of take as much as the defense will give you. So if that guy will let you get out to a 2.5 foot, a 3 foot, a 3.5 foot split in some cases, you can widen the hole without having to do any extra blocking or any extra effort. So we tell the guys, try to take as much as the defense will give you. And then when we talk about levels, that's just in terms of kind of getting on defenders or being able to pull and get yourself free. So when we talk about a player being on the ball, his fingertips will be on the football. If we talk about a normal alignment, his fingertips go to the toes of the center, and then an off alignment would be fingertips on the heels of the center, trying to get as far back as possible. I know with a lot of people using 2-point stances, we just want to make sure that the tackle, if he's a puller, can get as far back off the ball, just like we would in some pass protection things. And we would tell him in a 2-point stance, just if he was a little bit too far back, to kind of bend forward a little bit at the waist so that his headgear breaks the hip of the center, and usually there isn't a problem. And officials always warn you before they flag you in most cases. So the techniques that we use to run this play is what I call a set to drive on the play side, or a burger on the front side. I'll explain that. If we're going to trap it, we'll use a flash release. I'll show that. We could do a whole clinic on double teams, but in general, the double team, the way that we're going to want to run this play, usually occurs between the center and the play side guard, and that's an ace block. But sometimes it does end up being a deuce block between the play side tackle and the play side guard. Skip pulls. We will skip pull when we're pulling to wrap, and we'll attack pull when we're pulling to trap, and I'll go over those as well. So when we talk about just the techniques, and then we'll put it all together, the set to drive is kind of how we minimize that ability to kick out. And if you can do it, kick out. It's great. But this was a way for us to take our tackle and get him on the end right now, and it replaces the kick out block. We're going to use a set to drive, typically versus a wider rush. In the picture here, this is a Penn State offensive tackle. He's going to use a set to drive on a tighter aligned defender. Typically, we would use a different technique, but this will kind of show it's a good picture of set to drive. So it's a soft kick with the outside foot, and we want to buzz the inside foot. So we don't want to kick out and kick slide. We just want to kick and show our hands and try to influence the rush to come up the field like you would against the pass. We're going to show our hands and read the defender, and then we want to drive his inside number and stay inside out. So that usually means as we're driving, we're going to, kind of shuffle upfield to kind of keep the guy, keep us between the ball carrier and the defender. But that's generally how it works. Versus a tighter defender, we might jump set and drive. And versus a head up defender, we reverse our footwork, and I'll show you what we do with that. We call it something different. But if we can get on the film here and just watch, how this guy does his thing, you'll see that, it's a pretty good picture of that. He puts his foot in the ground, buzzes inside foot, and then attack the inside number and turn the defender out. I've got another picture here. We get into the next one. This is Auburn, again, running this type of a concept. So you watch the offensive tackle sets, get the defender up the field, and then really attack hard with that inside hand and turn the defender up and out. So again, I'll play that again, work them out, and open it up for your back to kind of get through the hole. So that's a set to drive. So if I say set to drive, that's what we're talking about. If we're going to be in a situation where we're going to trap, we would use what we call a flash release. So set to drive, I guess you could call it flash to drive if you wanted to. I just always called it set to drive. But a flash release is where the offensive lineman, in this case, it's going to be this tackle, 79, is going to basically do the same thing. He's going to flash by setting his outside foot and flashing his hands at the defender, and then he's going to release flat to the inside to his linebacker. So in this case, we're trapping this end, so he's going to flash, and then he's going to work up to the linebacker level. Now, this is a little bit different because this is not the wrap play. This is the counter play. So the tackle is working down to the inside, the middle linebacker. If we were just doing this as the wrap play, he'd be working to the near linebacker, almost like the veer, like a veer release. But he's going to flash and then get up and forward. That was a freshman for us a few years ago when I was at Bowdoin College. This kid was a freshman, never played offense before. I would typically want him to flash and then kind of high leg toward the guard and then climb. I think the flattening aspect of it is important because it keeps their shoulders square and they don't typically get a run under from a linebacker. But this is not bad in terms of he's getting to where he needs to be by influencing that defender so that he comes up the field a little bit and help the kick out block. Now, we flash, but we also tell them we have to be ready to flash and collect. So if the defender is getting a little bit closer, this is again why we want to stay a little flat after we flash, because if that defender is working across our face, it turns into a drive block for us. So you'll see here this defensive end works underneath. 79 is able to collect him. And again, this is working the two-person counter, but it gives you the same idea of kind of what we want to kind of get out of that tackle. Flash it, collect it, and bring it down inside. And we'll work on that during the week so the guys know to kind of identify the keys for when that's going to happen based on film study. Now, this rarely happens, but I mean, these are three situations that all happened in the same game. The defense had shifted, so we ended up getting a 3 technique on the play side. And so this was a flash to deuce. So again, normally we would just tell him go because that 3 technique's a big danger. But he ended up flashing. They had moved a little bit later in the call. He ended up flashing and kind of getting back into his double team to the linebacker here with the guard. Again, the reason that we would say flash to flat to release is kind of the coaching point there. And this is another reason why we would want to do that, because you may end up having a double team with your guard. So again, 3 kind of examples of how we use the flash on the kick out portions of the play if we were going to trap instead of wrap. Now, the other technique that we use, we call it a burger. A burger is an in and out block. That's why we call it burger. When we burger, a burger is when the defender is getting a little tight. So if we have a wide defender, set to drive is great. But when he gets a little tighter and we're worried that the guy might cross our face, our offensive linemen know to use this technique, which we call a burger technique. The first step will be flat into the inside. The second step goes into the defender. And then we're going to rip our inside hand for leverage and work inside out and upfield. So it's essentially delaying the drive block, an angle drive block. So we're going to work in, then we're going to work out, and that creates the de facto kickout block. So this is Baylor doing this, who's great at running the wrap play. That just gives you kind of an example of, being able to kind of get in and out on the player. And again, why do we step flat with the inside foot first? It's the same thing as the flat step on a flash release, is that if the defender's getting thick here on you, we're expecting crossface. So staying flat allows the tackle to easily collect that guy and bring him down inside, and the puller would kind of roll the hole. So here's an example there. He's going to step inside, defender crosses his face, it turns into a dry block, and here comes the puller taking it around. So we always want to be able to react to an inside move, because that is, if you're good at running plays like this, that is how defenses are going to defend you. We could do an entire clinic, and maybe we will, Nick, on double teams. There's a certain way that we double team. I am a covered man takes the down defender on fully, and we high leg or gallop down into a cross shove. But the terms that we'll use are ace, deuce, and tray. Typically, the ace block is the one that we talk about the most on the counter plays, just because we're always trying to hopefully run the play to the low shade. So if we're in an underfront or an overfront, we want to kind of, if we can check it to the nose, the 2-eye or the shade, we're going to do that. Sometimes you do end up getting a deuce, and you're going to want to deuce block it. Most of the time on these plays, we'll make what we call a short call that I'll show you. But so the ace is really kind of, I just put a clip in here of a good ace block here against the shade. We're running the wrap play over this way, or running the counter play over this way. And I'll just run this. Again, we can talk all day long about this one block, but we're going to high leg into that. So our guard and our center work together on that ace to number 9, and that allows us to, pull our tackle there. Tackle's trying to get through on that linebacker, and we end up getting onto the third level. That's number 11's their safety. If we can make the safety make the tackle, we're in good shape. So let's talk about skip pulls. I'm a big believer in the skip pull, but I think the skip pull is different when you're, depending on how far you have to go. In general, we want to be in off the ball alignment. That allows us, the skip allows us to gain ground with no wasted movement or time. I think it's a quicker movement, even though this is a slower play. Basically, we're going to kind of step behind ourselves, not quite crossing the midline, and we're going to get our hips and eyes pointed at the target. We're going to block the defender on his angle. I don't tell the guys that we really got to try to square up, especially if we're running the tackle wrap. I think that becomes more of a skip and run than a skip and shuffle that our guards would use on power. But we're going to read that play side tackle, play side guard block, and we'll go under or around as tight to the double team as we can, or tight to that single block as we can. And then we're going to be alert for short calls by the play side guard. So if we do run this and we end up getting a 3 technique, the guard would call back to the tackle short, short, short. And that would just tell him, hey, the guard's blocking the 3 technique out and I got to pull through the A gap. Generally, when crossing 3 gaps, we skip and run. When crossing less than 3 gaps, we skip and shuffle. So it's just a different way. A lot of tools in the toolbox. It's pretty simple, but we have some examples here. So this is kind of how we teach the shuffle portion. So if we were pulling up short, this would be more like a tackle, would use maybe something like this if he was pulling up short. And again, I think the film is more for the skip portion of it than necessarily the shuffle. But you'll see on this next clip right here, I'll try to slow this down, but you'll see when he skips with his outside foot. So let's picture this as a left tackle. He's going to skip. He goes a little long here because it's a drill, but we like to be a little bit shorter than that. And then he's going to get into his pull. That's obviously shuffling, and we say spike your outside foot to get vertical. But we find with the wrap play, it's more of a skip and run, and I'll show you that. Here's an example of a short call, right? So if there's a 3 technique, the guard's calling short, 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 and the tackle knows, hey, I'm going to skip, and I'm going to potentially kind of just shuffle to get around this block and then get vertical onto my linebacker. Now, here's an example of a guard doing this. So you just have to picture that maybe it would be, the opposite, that there's a block happening here and he's just going around the guard. But this is kind of how that skip shuffle, in a short situation, because this guard is going to block on and 53 is going to pull through, 76 is going to block on. But it gives us an idea of kind of how quick that happens. A quick skip, a quick shuffle, and then get through the hole and find your linebacker on the correct angle. So we would teach that same technique to the tackle. All our linemen do this drill every day, and they learn to skip shuffle and they learn to skip run. And they just use whatever they need to use based on their abilities. Here's a skip and run. So when the play is going to go longer, so you can see he's crossing a B gap and 2 A gaps to get to where he is. He's going past 3 gaps. We just tell him to run. So he's going to skip and just take off. And so here's the film of our left tackle now. He's got to pull to this opposite B gap where we're going to get an ace block here to 22. We're going to get a burger block here on 99, and then he is going to pull for 55. And you'll see that he's just going to pull. He's just going to skip and run. So get Brendan going here. So he's going to take a quick skip, and then he's running, find his linebacker. So again, less than 2 gaps, skip shuffle. More than 2 gaps, skip and run. And that's a pretty good kind of rule for our guys. Again, you see our play side tackles using a burger, working his guy inside out. We get a nice run there with the quarterback on the wrap play. An attack pull. So an attack pull is a kick out block. So we use this when we're going to kick out a defender on a trap. I am not a guy that believes in starting a lawnmower or elbowing somebody behind you. I think it's a very subtle move. It's a flick of the play side wrist, and we step and open our hips to the target because we don't want to lose ground backwards. We want to kind of align off the ball and then get into the line of scrimmage on the kickout block. We attack the defender's near shoulder with our correct shoulder. So if we pull right, we hit with our right. If we pull left, we hit with our left. And we're going to hit the shoulder that the defender presents to us. So if a defender wrong arms us, we're going to try to hit him on that backside shoulder and still try to kick him out. We may end up logging him, but I think logs kind of happen. if you're really getting a hard downhill. If we're doing a good job of some of the flash setting and things like that, we can generally get the guy to stand up a little bit and we get a good shot out. The shoulder flipper and get the feet out of the hole. I'm a shoulder guy, not a hands guy when it comes to kick out blocks. We want the first contact to be with the shoulder pad, and we want the forearm to be long, like a kettlebell swing. A great young coach who's the assistant line coach out at Albany State and out at Albany, University of Albany in New York, Bobby Johnson came up with that one, and I thought it was a great visual. And then we're going to finish the defender back across the line of scrimmage. That's old Delaware wing T, and that was the system I played at in high school and college. So a kettlebell swing. This is an example of the picture of what a kettlebell swing was, but kind of just that's Penn State. Coach Hand, shared some film with me, and I think that's a great picture of it. Of the long forearm, the shoulder pad hits first, then the kettlebell swing and drive your feet out of the hole. So good film there. So this is kind of what it looks like if we drew it up, right? We're going to flick the play side wrist and step it open to our target. We're going to attack the defender's near shoulder with the correct shoulder. We're going to shoulder flipper, so that shoulder and then kettlebell swing, and then we're going to get our feet out of the hole. And then this is just out of old school, Delaware wing T football. Finish the defender back over the line of scrimmage. That keeps you between the defender and the football. The defender and the ball carrier. We do have an exit call. We don't use this very much, and I don't have film on it. But an exit call is kind of like a short call when we're running the trap. So if we want to trap the 3 technique, we would just call exit, and that would tell our tackle, hey, we're going to trap the 3 instead of trapping the 5. If we didn't want to, double team that, if we want to kind of give that guy a thrill, hit that good 3 technique with a big tackle pulling at him. So the attack pull drill, this is my favorite drill from Stanford. I use this as the film, but we do this drill. I think the crash mat's great. We actually made a crash mat out of a bunch of different bags. It accomplished the same goal if you don't have a crash mat. But it's a great drill. The guys like it. I'll put the guy that's getting trapped, I'll have him hold a hand shield. I don't want my guys hitting each other. We just don't have the numbers. But you're going to see flick the wrist, pull with intentions and with bad intentions. And here's the thing with attack pulls. If you've got a guy that he's going to be a guy that's going to be super aggressive. So we want him to go in there and run and take a shot. We want guys that want to blow things up. The 2 best attack pull guys I had a kid, Sean Gaffney, when I was at Endicott. That was a tremendous tackle pull trap guy, and you're going to see him on film. And then AJ Mansalillo at Bowdoin was one of the best that I ever had at this block. And the reason is they used the shoulder flipper technique, and they took a shot. And they'd want to tear your head off on these blocks. They love the attack blocks. So that's kind of a good drill. Get ready for a lot of laughing and giggling when they do this drill, because they end up on top of each other, and it's pretty good. But it's a great teaching tool, and we do that drill every week. So here's an example of a great attack pull by the left tackle. So this is Sean Gaffney, the guy I told you about. He's Worcester, Massachusetts, Engine 6. He runs into burning buildings now, and this is a good guy to have. You're doing your trap blocking. So he's going to pull here. We're going to trap this guy, 17, who's a really good athlete. But boom, you can see there, Sean's really using that technique. So if we talk about, point of contact being shoulder first, there it is. And then rip the kettlebell swing shoulder forearm up. That lifts him up off his feet, and then run your feet and get him out of the hole. So, a great example of kind of the use of those different things and the techniques and the drills that we do showing up on the film, right? So here's the thing, to trap or wrap, that's the question, right? We use different ones at different places based on personnel. So if you've got a guy that's a great wrap guy, well, then that's good. I think the wrap depends more on your front side tackle than it does on necessarily the puller. But if you got a great trap guy, run trap. We initially installed this play as the wrap, as the dart play that everybody talks about in the spread offense. But we were still back then, we were still like a 2-back, we were in a pro set offense for a lot of times. And so pulling that tackle was pretty good. And I just changed it over. I said, we're getting more production out of trap than wrap. So let's go run that. And so that's why we made the decision. But we initially installed it as a wrap play. So, freeze this on the film or whatever, and you can look at the assignments. I think everybody can kind of figure out how to run a wrap play. It's not too tough, but the guys that kind of are the key guys in here are the tackles. So we always tell the play side tackle that he's blocking the second defensive lineman past the center. So in general, his rule is to angle drive a 4-eye. So we drive a 4-eye, and again, that can be positionally dependent. You might want to trap a 4-eye, but we would initially say drive a 4-eye. We burger a 4 or a 5. So if you get head up to outside, still on your shoulder, we burger that with inside footwork and then drive out. And then we would set to drive a loose 5 or wider. So if we think that guy's wide enough that he's kind of shown himself to be a little bit more of a rush guy or a contained guy, then we'll flash and drive him because we're not afraid of him crossing our face. If you look at the backside tackle, we're going to skip pull for the play side linebacker. So as he's getting in his stance, he's thinking, I'm skipping pull. He's going to locate the linebacker pre-snap. He's going to get down in his stance, and then he's just listening for calls. So if he hears the short call, he knows that he's going to skip, shuffle, and get through the A gap. If he hears no other call, he knows he's going all the way around the B gap, and he's going to skip and run. He's got to run a full speed course through the first available daylight to that play side linebacker. We don't want to slow down on this because of the distance. He can go faster. If it was a guard pulling, we might actually want to slow him down a little bit, which is why we shuffle a little bit more with our guards. But with the tackles, we got to get them there. There might be bigger dudes. They might be a little slower. They might have to get there a lot faster, so we just let them run most of the time. Stay on the angle. Don't try to square up. A lot of times linebackers are going to be coming downhill, and it'll turn into a running kick-out block. If the backside guard, we did do this, if the backside guard didn't feel that he could free the tackle or we're having a problem, freeing the tackle, then we could make a me call. We could pull the guard and have him do the same thing, either pull through or kick out based on the play call. We could make this an uncovered or covered kind of call. Generally, I wanted my tackle doing it. I think it hits better with the counter action. So just looking at it, and again, you see one drawn up with the spread, and the others are all drawn up out of 2-back because I hadn't changed it over. But just gives you some examples of how we're going to pull. Now, if we want to just make this a call and run it play, we would have to find a way to shut off that defensive end. So typically that would be to use a tight end or a wing back or a fullback to cut off the defensive end, just like we would have done on old school counter Trey back in the day. But he's just going to cut off that defensive end and free the tackle. If now the things that we're kind of moving toward is this really becoming more of a read play for the quarterback, where now you can have some of those read options where the quarterback can pull it and run it, the quarterback can pull it and run it and throw. But there is a way for us to then just say we can really be spread out, run this as a true 5-man blocking surface, read the backside end with the quarterback, and be in good shape. Other ways to do that, you fake in the back into the end, tell them not to avoid contact, run it with the quarterback. So lots of different ways to run it, but all the philosophies stay the same. We will say this, on the double team portions of this block, which, like I said, are typically the ace block. So if you're looking at the upper left-hand corner here, our center is going to work to the low shade. So, based on where the defense aligns, he might be working backside, he might be working front side, but he kind of works towards the low shade, helps out, and then works to the backside linebacker. That's been good for our centers because it doesn't put him in a position where he's got a one-on-one block. He's always got a 2 or 1 block. And then maybe if your guard isn't as good against that nose guard, that nose guard's a real good player. Now he's getting some help and not just having a single block the nose guard. So it creates some good stability in the middle of the defense at the point of attack so we can get through the hole. Here's a wrap right where you get the short call. So you see here the guard's going short. He's going to either typically he's going to be burger driving this guy most of the time. And we're going to work that guy out, and we'll pull back underneath here and pick up this Sam linebacker. Again, the center works to the low shade to the backside backer to help that guard out. So again, we could spend all day long. Maybe we will someday on double teams. It's a topic unto itself. So here's some. Let me see if I can get some wrap plays in here. All right, so looking at this here, we're going to run the wrap over to the left. So based on rules, the tackle is going to either set to drive, set to drive or going to burger drive this based on what he thinks the biggest threat is. Looking at this, he might say, I better burger this because 55 is on the outside. That's a threat to come underneath. So I know that I better burger drive that. This is going to be an ace block. The center is going to work with the low shade to the backside backer. The guard is going to high leg gallop into that and cross shove it in and work to this backside linebacker. This guard is going to free the tackle by burger blocking this thick three. And then we're going to want our tight end here to cut off this defensive end and free the tackle. So let's see how that looks. So again, pretty good shot of the play. I mean, this is 55 is an unblocked entity. So maybe we want to put somebody over there to block him or to pre-snap read and get a gift out of it. But we just kind of felt that we just get it up there and run it. 22, you can see when I say find him on the angle. So as the tackle's pulling here, he gets his eyes on him and he skipped pulling. But man, this is going to turn into an attack block pretty quick. So you can see he's coming in here a little bit with his hands and just kind of gets eaten alive. But he absorbs the linebacker, and that allows our guy to get square and get downhill. The thing that we tell the backs, though, is this. I think any good counter play runs a coach that I used to work for used to say that State Street in every town that he's been in was always a one-way road. So I tell the guy, run it right down State Street. And that just means it goes one way, and we're going to try to get this thing in the A gap and then then adjust. So we'd like to stay like real tight to this double team and square it up and run right down the hash if we can. I think most good counter plays, if you study it, are going right down the middle of the defense and they crease things. They're always tighter than you think. Let me see here. That's the same play. All right, so then, if we start talking about changing it to trap. So again, based on your personnel, maybe based on the defense that you're seeing, trap can be a great option. Again, it was really, really good for us in the years at Endicott. It was better than the wrap play, so we went with trap. So as we're trapping defenders, the great thing about it is that nothing changes for anyone except the tackles. So if the play side tackle knows that it's trap, he knows I'm gonna flash, get flat, and then get to the near linebacker because there's only one puller. So he's got to flash, get flat, work to the near linebacker. So that's what this tackle's doing. The left tackle's doing right here is he's going to flash that end, get flat, be aware that the nose could, spike into the B gap and you would have to hit that. But then you're going to get to this Mike linebacker. The backside tackle knows I'm gonna just open pull here. I'm gonna attack pull, and I'm gonna kick out this defensive end. And again, these plays, if they're running them up the midline, they can always adjust back out here and make the big play. So, sometimes even back here, a play opens, a spot opens up and it kind of shoots the backside. But we coach it like right down in the A gap and then work off that trap block. So in case that trap block gets knocked back a little bit, we're still in good shape. If they start to log it a lot, what you'll see is that we'll go in there for the kick out and the backs will bounce it out. And there's huge plays out there if the back bounces it out sometimes, but we don't tell them that. We just let it kind of naturally happen. So let's look at some trap plays. So this is in the red zone. We knew they were going to be in man coverage, so we run some jet motion here. We're running a jet trap coming back here as the counter play to 33 here. So you're going to see everybody's going to kind of work in. Now our defense knows, so he's going to flash and collect and take the defensive down inside. They're all going to kind of slant to the motion, and you're going to see our tackle here kicking out number 42. So they run with the motion. Tackle collects the down lineman. We kick out there, and we're in the end zone. So, a pretty simple version of it. As you get into it, different defense here, bigger defense, bigger guys up front. You can see kind of similar now. We're going to just kind of, change the backfield action here, and we're going to have him kind of cross and then kind of work back inside. Again, this kid 33 was an All-American, academic All-American. Now we look at that and we say, why didn't he hit that right up there in the gap there? Well, the kid rushed for like 1,600 yards and caught like 600 yards of passes, so we didn't question him too much. But as you see the blocking scheme here, we're going to trap this. So 75 is going to flash and then get down inside for the near linebacker. Does a pretty good job there. Going to flash and get down inside. So we're looking at 75. Quick flash. He just kind of throws his hand out there, gets down inside. the ace block between the guard and the center. So there's 72 and 78 are working for that backside linebacker. They do a nice job there of closing that window. 78 was an academic All-American too. So we had some good players. And then there's the example of this kid's going to try to wrong arm it, and he's really squeezing hard. Our tackle is he's going to kick that guy out no matter what, and he's going to try to just crush the guy and get him knocked back. And then Mikey makes a decision and goes and finds 5 yards. So, our guard on the backside here is just working back across the face of the tackle. Again, the tackle's off the ball, so this usually isn't a problem. And we get a good looking, play on that one. Could have been a little bit better, but the back makes it happen. Again, I think I zoomed in here so you can kind of see 75 on this one with the flash, boom, just nice and quick. He could be flatter coming inside. This is good, bad, and the ugly, but he does a pretty good job there. I think if Mikey had kept that thing downhill in the A gap, he would probably been in the end zone. All right, another example of the tackle trap. So again, we're running this. We tended to like to run it to the right because our left tackle was our guy on kicking out. But again, here, I'd like to see the tackle just kind of veer releases here because 55 he thought was a little wider. He didn't flash him. I would have liked to seen him, hit 72 in the hip on his way to 59. But he does a pretty good job here of kind of eventually finding his linebacker. So you're getting there. Now, here's an example of, should we have called short here? We wouldn't, because it's a trap play that maybe should have been a little bit more of a deuce block on 72 to 59. But, I put this on here for the example of now the shade is on the backside of the call. So the guard or the center works backwards to the backside guard. And those two guys would technically probably be working to 31. I think we might have the point wrong here. But you can kind of get that example. And then there's another good kick out block. It gets back through the hole. So I'll let that play one time full go. And tight end does a good job on the backside, just cutting the guy off. You get a good call. We averaged a good clip on this play. All right. Here again, if you scouted us, this is probably the one that I showed the great kick out block. But again, you start from the play side tackle. 75 is going to flash that end slightly. You should be working flatter inside and maybe spending a little bit more time with 72, but he's up onto the correct linebacker. 72 is blocking the 2-eye. The center is they were kind of a head up and slant angle defense. So in this game, we told the center to just kind of like machine gun his feet, stay in the middle of the defense and help where needed. And he ended up kind of just working up to the Mike linebacker. And then here comes the guard for the tackle for the big kick out. And then Mikey's keeping that nice and tight, but almost too tight. Every now and then you don't get it right, but that was a pretty good example. This is against MIT, so they're pretty smart. They're always in the right spot. But again, here's my right tackle pulling. All right, so we're running this to the left, which is a little bit unusual for us. But watch 64, pretty savvy guy. He's working inside and he's kind of just going flat to release. But what he does here, and he was a very, very good football player, he holds off the defensive end with his outside shoulder. He felt that pressure. He held him off just enough, and that helped his buddy, who wasn't as good a trap guy, at least get on the block. You can see the double team here to the low shade, which is play side. So the center and the guard are working that, and they're working to that backside linebacker. And then Mike, our tailback, keeps it tight to the A. He doesn't like the A, but he sees it in the backside A. And because our backside cutoff blocks are doing their job with their burgers and their drives, the tight end and the backside guard, we end up having an open gap on the backside there. So I tell the guys, every single block is really important because stuff like this can happen. We never wanted our running back to slow down. We don't want to slow down a speeding bullet. He was a pretty good player. Again, more trap blocking. This was a really big play for us that year. Again, this happens too, right? So the Olay block. So now this defender just has been getting his lunch handed to him by 64. He doesn't want to get hit again. So he comes up there. What does he do? He Olays. and it's as good as a kick out, and there goes our tailback. So again, same kind of concepts. Tackle is flashing 17. He could be flatter towards 57. I think I started coaching that change after this season. The center is kind of staying in the middle of the defense, but he's considering 57 to be a bigger threat, so he's stepping that direction, looking for 46. Really, he should be probably looking for 5, but he can get a good block by a receiver on the outside, and tailbacks in the secondary. So, and you get a little somebody giving a little extra business here at the end. I just noticed that. That's pretty good. Yeah, shot in the back. All right, so then variations on the base run. When we call the variations, we would tag in. So this is back when we were using numbers to call it. We use words to call it now. But the tackle will block the C-gap defender, in any other tagged counter. So if we were in like a tackle and tight end in a wing set, we want the tight end to be the puller, we would just tag him as the puller, the Y. If we wanted the fullback to be the puller, we tag him as the F. And that just tells the backside tackle goes, I'm not pulling anymore. I am now responsible to shut off the C gap, just like the fullback or the tight end or whoever was shutting off the C gap when I was pulling. We've also kind of played around a little bit with sometimes putting the puller on the play side and kind of sneaking him through to block a linebacker. We didn't do it a whole lot, but occasionally we would kind of set it in there, and it was a way to kind of do something a little bit different. But again, their responsibilities don't really change at all, except the backside tackle now knows I'm blocking the C-gap defender. Now, you could go trap with these other guys. It's not as good, in my opinion, but it's not unlike an inside zone, split zone with the back coming across or the tight end coming across the formation to seal the end. This would just be kicking out the end. But we tended to kind of gravitate more towards wrapping with the big skills and having them do the wrap, and we ended up trapping with the tackle. It just seemed to work out better for us. So here's some different examples, right? So you get the F, the fullback at the top left there. Now he's going to counter step and come through. You got the tight end next to him there on the right, pulling from the wing or a back pulling from the wing and getting through. You could have it be a quarterback play like the H play down here where the halfback leads for the quarterback, not unlike a draw. And then just something simple here. We do a little zip motion. He motions to the gap he's supposed to be in, just get some eye candy going that way, and then send him through to block the Mike linebacker. Again, you got to base that on your Z. So here's some examples of, the different guys doing. So here's the fullback goes in a little slide motion. He jabs his foot, and then he's working through to be the puller. So right here now, 64, who's normally been my left tackle, good puller, he realizes I got to stop that C-gap defender. So he and the guard are kind of working together. The center works back to the threat. This was a short call. This was a legitimate short call by 72. 72 takes him on, and the fullback is just reading that through. Can I get through there? Nope. I can take the next hole. Bang. And 75, our tackle here is just doing a little, angle drive. He just goes out and gets on him because he felt he could. And if he was inside out a little bit more, it's a better play, but it's still about an 8-yard gain. Here's at Bowdoin a couple of years ago. This kid, 88, was a really, really good tight end. He got injured quite a bit, but Bo Millett, he really knew how to play football. So here again, if we look at this from the frontside tackle back, 54 is going to burger this. He jumps inside a little bit too much for my liking, but not bad. 53 and 73, the guard and center are going to ace block to the Mike linebacker. 67 is going to shut off the B gap, and 79 is going to shut off the C gap, and then it frees our back, our tight end, who's in the sniffer position, to be the puller. And so we'll coach him the same way. If he's crossing multiple guys, he can skip and run. If he's going into a tighter gap, he's gonna skip and shuffle. Again, here we go again. Let's go to the next one. Okay, same year. Now these are different variations. This might be the last clip, but we came up with a bigger personnel grouping where we had an extra tackle in the game. Our tight end was a little dinged, so we used our starting left tackle, moved back because he was a better athlete. Our backup, our third tackle, who's typically would play on the right, we made him the extra tackle. So we had different things, and we did different things with this formation where this was the true tight end, where 70 was the true tight end, and we got into a formation to have him eligible. And now all of a sudden you got an eligible tackle. So it was a way for us to be like a tackle eligible with, he's an eligible number, but they would kind of discount him because all the focus went to this big guy who's now in the backfield, and we're going to pull 54 through just like we would on the wrap play. We're just doing it from the backfield line. So again, if we look at this from front to back, 79, the right tackle is going to burger because it's a wrap play. He's going to burger the defensive end. Bates liked to slant and angle, so he was going to take a good burger step on that and then lower his hips and drive into the man and try to torque him out. Does a pretty good job there. All right. Because they're in an odd set, they're in a wide odd set, so there's a zero nose. So 67 and 75 are going to work an ace block to the backside linebacker. All right. And then 53 is going to be responsible for the B gap, and 70 will be responsible for the C gap. So it's like a big fan on the backside there to take the two most dangerous guys. And then 54 is going to pull through the hole and block the play side linebacker. So again, we're forcing their good safety number 6 to kind of get in the box. We had a good tailback that went for about 150 that day, and it also creates good opportunities for play action passes. Now, that's the thing that we really didn't cover because this was kind of designed to cover the base play, the wrap play or the trap play within our counter concept. But there's plenty of ways to protect this play with some downfield shots that are pretty good that you can max protect. You can also use this as a read play and use whatever you're using for your inside zone reads, whether that's, pre-snap gifts or post-snap keeps or RPOs, all work within this play set pretty well. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm certainly available for any additional, conversation. I'll put the original screen back up here, Nick. Feel free to email me or to hit me up on Twitter at Coach JB Wells there. I'm pretty active on Twitter with that stuff, and love to talk football and appreciate Nick and you doing this and putting these clinics together. It's great to be able to just pop on YouTube and find more clinics than we could ever go to in a normal year on every subject, making us all better. So you're doing a great thing for the community here, Nick, and I really appreciate it. So hope everybody is safe. Hope everybody is healthy. And if I can ever be any help to anyone, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks.